Shri Radha Madhav ki, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Can we read the translation together? Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, the very names of us, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead. I, to Narayan Rishi, supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Vasudev, the author. For regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service of the personality of God, whose praise with transcendental songs is established in your immortal path. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam class. We'll be reading from chapter 27, continuing from yesterday, which is titled Understanding Manifold Nature, and we'll read from verses 17 to 30. But before I get started, does anyone remember anything from yesterday? Any striking points?
There's a lot.
Give me one at least.
One, 8. Well, it was he should not be overly intimate with non-devotees.
Okay, that was a point. Else, Bruce Money.
I know there was a lot.
Okay, at least you acknowledge that. Anyone else remember anything from yesterday? Yes, Advaita Prabhu. Yeah, I think I saw that being read somewhere here, 8 or 9, something similar. I heard that there was something mentioned about like devotee has to be celibate. Was that also a point?
Yeah.
Was that also something interesting? You think that is interesting? I'm sure like Madhananda addressed that point. But also from Monday, from Kalakanta Prabhu's class, we were also in the same chapter. Does anyone remember something from Monday? Lucy, you asked some nice questions on Monday.
Yeah. I remember that I asked about what.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah, there was a main point about how devotees are the best friends of everyone. Like Suhrit Kalakanta was talking, like other people you can try to do a lot of good, but still you cannot be the best friend to all the living entities, because ultimately whatever you're helping them with is temporary. But when you, the example of a stolen wallet, when you return the wallet to its owner, that's the best service you can do for the wallet. So when we help awaken Krishna consciousness in other beings, that's how we're acting as the best friend of them, because we're returning them to where they belong. Anything else? Extended selfishness. Yeah, how like serving the country, serving the nation, serving the family, the world. It's all forms of extended selfishness. And we had some nice discussion on that. Okay, so we'll get started with today's verses. So what is happening is now Kapila Dev, the person who is speaking this chapter, who is an incarnation of Krishna, his mother is asking him some questions. So we'll get started. We'll read what Mother Devahuti is asking and what Kapila Dev responds. Shruti.
Sri Devahuti inquired, "My dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spiritual soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation possible?"
Yeah.
As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma, or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness.
Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him by his
Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its cause has not ceased.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "One can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me, or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter."
Just real quick before we go to the next verse. When it said that one can hear from me, what text does that remind you of? Like, what scripture does that remind you of? The Gita, because Krishna spoke that. What about me? What scripture does that remind you of? Krishna book? Bhagavatam, yeah. This, like, Prabhupada talks about this. Like, something about Krishna is Bhagavatam and something from Krishna directly is the Bhagavad Gita. Just a quick point. Next verse. Jonathan?
This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption.
The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. By the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it.
Stephanie?
By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in its own glory.
In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things. But when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder.
The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
When a person doesn't serve he becomes completely reluctant. Anyone in the material, even after the highest, which is known from the world, he becomes fully developed.
My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited, causeless mercy, and thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back.
One verse remaining. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Nice conclusion. into the series of verses. And there's so many themes that we could discuss about from these answers, these questions by Devhuti and the responses by Lord Kapila. We will focus on verse 21 for today. And this is one of the first responses by Lord Kapila. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Animitta Nimittena Swadharmena Malatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Shruta Sambhritaya Chiram Animitta Nimittena Swadharmena Malatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Shruta Sambhritaya Chiram. What else? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nimittena Swadharmena Atmana Tivraya Bhaktya Cha Shruta Sambhritaya Chiram. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nimitta Nimittena Swadharmena Malatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Sruta Samritaya Chiram. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nimitta Nimittena Swadharmena Atmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Shruta Samritaya Chiram. What else?
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Animitta Nimittena Swadharmena Atmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Shruta Samritaya Chiram. Does anyone recognize any words from the Sanskrit text?
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
What does that mean?
said, he said,
Yeah, Shri Bhagavan said. And someone said Bhaktiya. Yeah, that's Bhakti. Anything else? Dharma is there. Maya is to me. It's not Maya. It's Mai. This one means unto me. Bruce.
I was gonna say truth, but
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say that. Is it truth same as
Yeah. What does Shruti mean?
the text?
In this context, it means hearing. The texts were like initially passed on by hearing. So here directly it means by hearing. Okay. What does that mean? Yeah. Okay, nice. Very Bruce Mani. What does that mean? Okay, let's see if that's what it is. I mean, I'm not sure. Let's read this together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of God had said, Animitta Nimittena, without desiring the fruits of activities. Swadharmena, executing one's prescribed duties. Amalatmana, the pure mind. Tivraya, serious. Mahi, unto me. By devotional service. Cha, and Shuta, hearing. Samritaya, endowment. For long time. That's it. Translation together. The Supreme Personality of God had said, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time, thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction. One will be free from contamination. We get different people to read like different paragraphs. It's 4 paragraphs, so we can divide it. Okay, Rasika Prabhu, wanna start? Volunteers.
Sridhara Swami comments in this connection that by association with material nature alone, one does not become conditioned. Conditional life begins only after one is infected by the modes of material nature. If someone is in contact with the police department, that does not mean that he is a criminal. As long as one does not commit criminal acts, even though there is a police department, he is not punished. Similarly, the liberated soul is not affected, although he is in the material nature. Even the Supreme Personality of Godhead is supposed to be in association with material nature when he descends, but he is not affected. One has to act in such a way that in spite of being in the material nature, he is not affected by contamination. Although the lotus flower is in association with water, it does not mix with the water. That is how one has to live, as described here by the personality of Godhead, Kapila Dev.
Okay, so before we move on, I was really struck by this analogy by Srila Prabhupada about just because we are in association with material nature or a devotee is in association does not mean that he is contaminated. That example by the police officer, like, or the people who are in touch, who like say work with the police, just because they're in contact with the police does not mean that they're contaminated. Like if you're not committing sinful activities, you don't have to be punished. Just made me think about, then it also said about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he comes down, he's also like doing things with the material nature, but that does not mean that he's contaminated. So us as devotees, what category do you think we fall in? The police department or the criminal? We are working with the police department, you could say, but we are in prison, like, but the jailer could also be in prison and the prisoner could also be in prison. We're on parole, okay. Okay. Yeah, so we are actually yeah, some of us, like as we become advanced devotees like Srila Prabhupada, they're actually part of the police department because they're helping us correct our behavior. And us, initially, I guess we started off as these prisoners who were engaged in sinful activities, but by the mercy of devotees and by Prabhupada, now we are being, let's say we were being punished and now we are on parole. Like we have been given a chance to correct our behavior, to like to correct for what we were doing wrong, to not be in association or to not be contaminated by material nature. And so this also reminds me of this fact that devotees, they don't reject the material nature because it's like people call illusion, like it's an expansion, it's Maya. Like I remember Advaita Prabhu is wearing this t-shirt. I don't know if you guys saw it yet, the Maya tricks, and have a look at that. Instead of the matrix, it's the Maya tricks.
The tricks of Maya get stuck in Maya.
Yeah, exactly. So just the devotee, because he comes to the world, he does not reject it as illusion. Like instead of that, as a police department, he's actually very sympathetic to the people who are in prison, the people who are contaminated by material nature, and is helping them. And everything that the material world has to offer, he's trying to engage it in devotional service instead of rejecting that. In our philosophy, we have a concept known as Yukta Vairagya. Has anyone heard that term? Like the residents? Does anyone know of the term Yukta? Does that remind you of something else? Yukta is similar to yoga, which means connected or like together. And Vairagya means renunciation. So one could try to renounce by rejecting everything, that I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to use this object. Like we know there's people in India or other parts of the world who are very renounced. They stay in very adverse conditions in the jungles and they don't use any modern facilities. But we know what Srila Prabhupada did. He really emphasize this point of Yukta Vairagya. Whatever the world has to offer, we'll take it, the best things the world has to offer, and we'll engage them in devotional service. And just because we are in contact with the things that the material world has to offer does not like incriminate us. Our purpose behind it, that's what like actually contaminates us or like liberates us. Like if you're using YouTube, we're using social media or like television or any like modern appliances that we have, laptop, internet, but we're using it to like serve Krishna, then that is Yukta Vairagya. We're actually renouncing the enjoying propensity behind those appliances and we're using it for service. Anyways, that's a few things that I thought of from this paragraph. We'll move on to the next one. Rasika Prabhu, volunteer to read.
One can be liberated from all adverse circumstances simply by seriously engaging in devotional service. How this devotional service develops and becomes mature is explained here. In the beginning, one has to perform his prescribed duties with a clean mind. Clean consciousness means Krishna consciousness. One has to perform his prescribed duties in Krishna consciousness. There is no necessity of changing one's prescribed duties. One simply has to act in Krishna consciousness. In discharging Krishna conscious duties, one should determine whether by his professional or occupational duties, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is satisfied. In another place in the Bhagavatam, it is said, everyone has some prescribed duties to perform, but the perfection of such duties will be reached only if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is satisfied by such actions. For example, Arjuna's prescribed duty was to fight, and the perfection of his fighting was tested by the satisfaction of Krishna. Krishna wanted him to fight, and when he fought for the satisfaction of the Lord, that was the perfection of his professional devotional duty. On the other hand, when contrary to the wish of Krishna, he was not willing to fight, that was imperfect.
It's wonderful. Again, we'll focus on a few points from here. The last one that is mentioned, is everyone familiar with what happened in the Bhagavad Gita? At least in the evening classes, you must have been like talking about this. Like initially, Arjuna, he did not want to fight. He thought, instead of like fighting with my own relatives, my own countrymen, I think it's better for me to renounce everything, to become a mendicant. So that way I'll avoid non-violence. I'll avoid violence. I'll adopt the principle of non-violence. But that was not what Krishna wanted. So in that case, there was a whole discussion. That was Bhagavad Gita. And at the end, he was convinced that it's his duty to fight. And when by performing his duty, Krishna was satisfied, that was the perfection of his duty. But if he had not done that, no matter how it externally seems, it would have been imperfect. Like imagine if Arjuna hadn't fought and the empire's rulers of that time, they had continued to rule. Like Arjuna would have thought that I'm just doing like good for the world by not killing my relatives. But for the greater good of the world, the empire's rulers would have continued like, and then sinful activities would have been promoted and slowly things would have been degraded. So in a different way, like contrary to what his thought was, he actually did the best for the whole world and for himself by engaging in what Krishna wanted. So sometimes it might appear like what we are doing, like our duty, like, okay, the main point here is that if our duty is not ultimately going to please Krishna, then we need to think about it like, is this actually my duty? And if despite our not liking something, we know that our spiritual master has told us, or the devotees have told us that this will please Krishna. So maybe again, we need to reflect that how can we put aside our own vested interests and act and perform that duty. There was something mentioned in the beginning of this paragraph, which was clean consciousness means Krishna consciousness, and one has to perform these prescribed duties with a clean mind. So what does that mean to you? What is a clean consciousness? A clean mind, what does that make you think? Any qualities that come to your mind, Jonathan?
I was just thinking that those come with right action.
Those that come with right action, that is clean consciousness. Bruce?
I was gonna say seeing everything in terms of Krishna.
That is clean. Okay. In more general sense. Yeah, Advaita.
Without
Your motive.
Yes, that is also very, very important point. That's what I was thinking. Clean means there's no dirt. And by dirt, usually when we refer to people in this world, when we say, oh, he has a very clean heart, a very clean mind, that means he's not trying to take advantage of others. He is not in it so that he can get something out of it and take disadvantage of someone else without having any ulterior motive. I think that's described as a very important quality of a devotee, like without any kapatya, without any deceiving nature. He's very clean, he's very transparent, so you can actually trust him. And so in this case, when it said that one has to perform his prescribed duties with a clean mind, means that we do our duty without having a separate like ulterior motive, that just by doing this, if Krishna will be happy, then I'll get something out of it and then I'll use it ultimately for my own pleasure. That's something. Or if I get certain powers, like I'll use it against the people that I don't like. So we are doing our devotional service with a clean mind, means we're just doing it sincerely. Does anyone know the background of the word sincere? Sadhvita Prabhu? Just shout it out.
Ancient world of either Greece or Rome,
Yeah.
in regards to the marble,
Yeah. Sincera, that means without any cracks.
without
Right?
the wax.
Without any wax. Okay.
Wax.
Wax. Okay.
They're filling the cracks with the wax.
Yeah. Okay. So how does that apply to the understanding that we know sincerity? Like,
When the tough time comes, we should not be a sunshine devotee,
mm,
but stick to the process.
mm,
This process works.
okay, that's very deep. Thank you. I appreciate that. So what clean mind here means is that, yeah, we do our duties with sincerity without having any other motives, the desire of pleasing Krishna and his devotees, because we realize that's what is making us happy. And one other question that I want to ask everyone is that it said there is no necessity of changing one's prescribed duties. Forget about changing prescribed duties. Is there something that we all had that we like to do, and when we came to Krishna consciousness, maybe we had to give up, or something that we dogtailed, like we found a way to engage that in Krishna service? Can anyone remember anything? Yeah, Jonathan.
Drinking coffee.
Okay, so
I have not found a way to dovetail it.
Okay.
No, I did. No, I did. I do. I have. I'm gonna tell you how I got over
Okay.
it by dovetailing it. Instead of coffee in the morning, I switched to drinking a nutritional shake and I offer it to the Lord.
That's wonderful. Okay, you found a way. Yeah. Okay, anyone else?
I got almost 6 months clean now.
Awesome. Jai. Any other things that you had an inclination towards? For me, personally, I had this inclination towards science. I still have it. I wanted to study chemistry. I am still studying chemistry. But for a long time, I just, when I tried to become serious in Krishna consciousness, I just couldn't understand how I could study this and engage this in Krishna service. It's just like initially we hear a lot about the scientists and how they're trying to like cheat everyone because they're not acknowledging the existence of God. And I had a similar mentality of, yeah, like why should I study so hard? Why should I try to get my living out of something which is apparently seen as not being very clean? Like there are very honest scientists, but there are some who are not. And so because I had this inclination, I eventually I realized that I could use that inclination to maybe some devotees are able to use that science for directly for Krishna service, but I felt like I wasn't able to do that. So at least what I could do is use that to earn a livelihood for myself. And when I earn a livelihood, I could use that to support Krishna's devotees, his temple, just like family. And I could use it to fund my own like travels to holy sites and be immersed in like devotee retreats. There's a lot of way in which we could use our livelihood, the income that we're earning. So in this case, maybe directly what we are doing is not a very Krishna conscious activity, although it could be. We could still use the outcome of it in Krishna service. Does that anyone remind anyone else of something?
Yeah. Oh, I just think of another example.
Yeah, please, yeah.
I love when I'm in my room, I love to watch something while I eat food. And recently I've been watching Falling Prabhupada. It's been really nice.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's wonderful. Anything else? Yeah. I mean, I'm asking you, is there anything else in that regard, like something that you have dovetailed in Krishna's service that you didn't have to completely give up? You could think of our like desire of maintaining a healthy body. You see Brandon every day, like does his yoga, does his running, like what is the benefits of a good healthy body? Like I used to like not put so much emphasis on it, but I used to wake up early and chant every day. And eventually I realized that in order to do that, I need a good like physical like system which supports me in that endeavor of chanting like in a focused way. My back doesn't hurt. If I've slept properly, my head doesn't hurt, then I could actually like do the devotional service properly. So if you're naturally inclined towards it, that's very nice. But also it is a prescribed duty to take care of our physical body so that we can use that in devotional service in like so many wonderful ways. There's always a message on the group. Sometimes there's a message on the group that needs some strong men to help with some lifting and to clean something. So if you're able to provide that, that is dovetailing our strengths in Krishna's service. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yes, Bruce? Going to the gym. Yeah. Exactly. Nanda used to say that when she was doing Krishna lunch and she was a manager, she had to carry a lot of heavy stuff. She realized that she needs to like up her strength, like have more strength, so that she could seamlessly do the services she had for Krishna lunch, so that she is not like injured anytime. Yes, Brandon?
But I have a lot of creative skills, so being able to use them, I've been really enjoying being able to actually use them in Krishna consciousness. So, like my photography, videos, and the social media management and all that kind of stuff, and creating social media ads, like the Together Tuesdays flyer and stuff like that. And yeah, so I've really enjoyed being able to apply that. Because when I first came in, I was like, I wanted to do that, but I get to do that plus, do the Krishna lunch, so it's nice.
That's wonderful. Like we can use our own creative talents and interests somehow or other in Krishna service. We all appreciate what Brandon does, like all the photos, all the videos of the trips. I don't remember a time when we had so many like recorded memories. I personally don't like to record stuff so much, but I'm happy when someone else does and I'm in it. I like to watch for myself when I'm in the picture or in the video. So I'm glad someone else does it. And he came up with the Together Tuesdays ideas. Yeah, that is a wonderful example. That's exactly what I was looking for, like using our, like something that we're inclined to do. And we use that for Krishna service. And Prabhupada says that one does not have to change in prescribed duties. And there's a common notion that except for being a butcher, there's almost anything else that you are doing, you can use that for Krishna service. That's such a broad-minded like perspective.
Well, even a butcher, so the warrior doesn't need to eat.
Okay, it's a different perspective, but yeah, exactly. In today's age, let's be more clear about that. But it's also said that the Kshatriyas, the warriors, don't really need meat. We could get into a whole discussion of is vegetarianism necessary or not, but it's a statement by Prabhupada that is one service that we cannot do, but let's just see about all the millions of other things that we can do. And the main point is whatever we can do and whatever we are doing, interested in doing, let's just try to divert that to Krishna service. Yeah, Brandon? Okay, they can do what Vaishnava is doing. They can do what Anthony is doing. They can chop vegetables for Krishna service. Thank you, they got can use those skills, the knife skills. Okay, we can read one more paragraph. Anyone else want to read? Krishna, would you like to read? Oh, Amrita wants to read. I've never seen that. Okay. Oh, there's two more paragraphs. Okay, if one wants to perfect his life, he should discharge prescribed duties for the satisfaction of Krishna. One must act in Krishna consciousness, for such action will never produce any reaction. Animita nimitena. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Yagyartha Karmano Anyatra. All activities should be performed simply for yagna, or the satisfaction of Vishnu. Anything done otherwise without the satisfaction of Vishnu or yagna produces bondage. So here it is also prescribed by Kapila Muni that one can transcend material entanglement by acting in Krishna consciousness, which means seriously engaging in devotional service. This serious devotional service can develop by hearing for long periods of time. Chanting and hearing is the beginning of the process of devotional service. One should associate with devotees and hear from them about the Lord's transcendental appearance, activities, disappearance, instructions, etc. There are two kinds of Shruti, or scripture. One is spoken by the Lord, and the other is spoken about the Lord and his devotees. Bhagavad Gita is the former, and Srimad Bhagavatam the latter. One must hear these scriptures repeatedly from reliable sources in order to become fixed in serious devotional service. Through engagement in such devotional service, one becomes freed from the contamination of Maya. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead cleanses the heart of all contamination caused by the influence of the three modes of material nature. By continuous regular hearing, the effects of the contamination of lust and greed to enjoy or lord it over material nature diminish. And when lust and greed diminish, one then becomes situated in the mode of goodness. This is the stage of Brahman realization or spiritual realization. In this way, one becomes fixed on the transcendental platform. Remaining fixed on the transcendental platform is liberation from material entanglement. Thank you. Shri Prabhupada ki. So, some particular lines that we read in this paragraph, does that remind you of a verse that we read every morning? I'll just read those lines again, if you could just scroll up a little bit. It was said that it is stated, yes, just right before this line. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead cleanses the heart of all contamination caused by the influence of the three modes of material nature. By continuous, regular hearing, the effects of the contamination of lust and greed to enjoy or lord it over the material nature diminish. Okay, so does that remind you of something? Okay, that's wonderful. That's something from the Guru Vandana that we read every morning. Yes. So destroyed when with transcendental songs as an irrevocable fact. Exactly. That is what I was looking for. This is actually quotation of that verse. Nashtaprasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Nishtha, with steadiness, we get that devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's what all of you are doing by coming to like Bhagavatam class every day, just by the simple act of coming and being here. You remember something, like one point or like some points that you remember, that slowly takes away our desires of personal sense enjoyment and acting for the service of others. And at this point, I would like to ask you guys, it's emphasized so much about one should hear a lot, either about the Supreme Personality of Godhead or what he has said. It was said that the serious devotional service can develop by hearing for long periods of time. So I'm sure like you all hear either in Bhagavatam class or in your discussions with other devotees or before you came to Krishna house, you heard something which made you want to come here. So my question is, can you share something that you heard or you read in a quote or you read in a book somewhere which inspires you to perform devotional service, and maybe it's something that you haven't been able to achieve yet, but you really it's in your mind that I want to be like that. Can you share anything? Yes, Jonathan.
The first time I heard you play Mridanga,
Okay, hearing Mridanga. Thank you. Where do you want to be like that? Okay. Anyone else, Bruce?
I don't remember which verse it is, but it's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's when Krishna says, if you can't do this, then do this. And if you can't do that, then do this. And it made so much sense to me. It just made a lot of sense to me. And I was like, that has to be God. That has to be God.
Which that?
Like,
I was just joking.
oh,
If you can't do that, then this. You can't do that, this. I was just mixing with you. But Kalakanda Prabhu did mention that verse on Monday. Like the best thing Krishna says is to love me without any like pulling back, without any what is the reservations. But if you cannot do that, then work for me. If you cannot do that, then like engage in charity, work for others. There's so many different like he makes it like very open-minded that somehow or other you can still be like related to me. That's a wonderful point. Anyone else like to share? Something that you've heard about while being in Krishna house or before coming to Krishna house, a quote that you read that has really struck you and that inspires you to be a devotee, to be spiritual. Yes, Advaita Prabhu.
I heard about Anartha Nivritti
Mm,
taking the long time.
mm.
It's the longest of all the
Different stages of devotion.
stages. But once you're through that dark night of the soul, all these other things, they happen very, very quickly.
Mm.
So it was a great, say, incentive
Yeah, I
to
guess
go through it.
when we are going through it, we might feel like this is taking so long, this is taking so long, why bother with it? But if we don't go forward with it, like it's not gonna get any better. So that encouragement that it seems really hard, but once it's over, everything becomes really like blissful. So that positive hope carries us forward. I remember something that I heard about. There's a kind of like a spiritual novel written by Sanatan Goswami, I think Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So in that, it's a main character called Gopakumar, and he's told that by Gopakumar, I think it's spoken to him by his guru, or like Narada Muni, that by the power of the mantra that you're receiving, everything that is like that you desire, everything that is in your heart, you can achieve it. And when I read that, I just thought of the Hare Krishna mantra. Like it says that this mantra is so powerful, anything, like just a simple statement, by this, the power of this mantra, anything that you desire, you can achieve it. So you should serve this mantra with all your heart. That make me like want to chant more sincerely. Yeah, that is something I wanted to share.
Yeah, when I came to Krishna house, one of my mentors said, however you're feeling, you can offer that to Krishna.
Mm.
And yeah, that stayed with me. And chanting may be really relishable one day, but then some days it may be kind of difficult. But however you're feeling, whatever rounds you can offer, just offer it to Krishna, regardless of how you're feeling.
That's wonderful. Like all of us must have had some point when we are thinking that it's getting really hard, like doing what we're doing here, especially waking up in the morning and coming early and chanting, sacrificing sleep for some time. And it's so comfortable, like just being in bed, or just coming and sacrificing that early morning sleep, which is somehow the best hours that you feel like sleeping in. But leaving that and coming and doing devotional service, I feel like we're only doing it because we have some appreciation for it, and we have that appreciation because somewhere or other, some devotee told us that this is good for us. Like, point is, it's emphasized about hearing, like hearing what spoken about God, what is spoken by the devotees. To just have an open mind when we are in class or we are in our conversations with devotees, something will definitely strike us which is beneficial for us and which will carry us forward in our difficult times. So, yeah. Brandon, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and I think it's funny that uh, Advaita is actually wearing the shirt too. But I was gonna say, for me, the thing that got me like really into Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, I guess I've always questioned reality ever since I first seen that movie, The Matrix, when he talks about the red and the blue pill, because then all of a sudden it's like, how do we know what's real? And then once I seen Prabhupada talking about how this is it's Maya, and then it just there's so many synchronicities because there was a band I used to listen to called Vela Maya. And so and then I did my research on what that meant. It means that Maya is veil of illusion. And so when I heard Prabhupada's talking in his video, it was like the joy of devotion or something like that. It just related so much to that because for a long time, since that movie first came out, I've always felt like there's something weird about this reality. It just don't make a lot of sense. Like everybody's just rushing to go here, rushing to go there, and it's all pointless. But then once I seen that joy of devotion, it clicked. It like literally was like that's what I kind of been looking for is like somebody to kind of show me a path to free yourself from the material world.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Reminder of the Matrix. Have you seen the Krishna House version of the Matrix?
No.
Oh, Brandon hasn't seen. You should get in touch with local ashram leader or Adishyam Prabhu, who is also involved in the production of that video. I'm really sure you'll like it. Okay, so to summarize everything, what do we learn from today? That whatever we are doing, we can engage that in Krishna service. We can engage our inclinations, and that is very encouraging because we do have inclinations. We cannot get rid of our desires, of our natural tendencies. But if we find a way to engage that in Krishna service, either by our own reflections, or it's always helpful to ask a mentor or someone we trust, like how can I be more engaged in Krishna consciousness in a more fulfilling manner? So we should do that. And also to realize that we are here on parole, like Bruce said, and we can use that chance to make the best use of the facilities that we have and engage them again in Krishna service. And how do we do that? It's said that one of the best ways to engage in devotional service is by hearing for long amounts of time. And hearing also goes beyond the Bhagavatam class. Hearing also goes to when we're associating with the devotees, when we're serving Krishna lunch, we're having conversations, when we share spiritual insights or just spiritual realizations. That is also hearing. So the more we engage in that, the more we become inspired to stick to the process. So let's keep hearing. And any final thoughts or comments before we go for another type of devotional service, which is Prashadam? Yes, Ari?
Thought that as there's an entire section of society, any country, right, that have the warrior nature.
Right? So in a way, God has created this plane as like a huge UFC octagon where the warriors of every country just battle each other for his enjoyment.
Is that a statement or a question?
Well, it's kind of a statement, but also like an open-ended question, like what does everyone think about that? That, if you can't serve on the highest level, you always try to do whatever your nature is, dovetailing it into Krishna's service, right? So if you have a warrior from country A, from country B, country C, then that makes this place just a huge battlefield for God. He knows that there's warriors there. He knows that there's warriors there. It's like, okay, now I'm going to have fun, sit back and watch them kill each other.
That is okay. That's a statement we will hear.
Well, I was just thinking about your point, how Krishna says, love me. He says, can't do that, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. So that's how we follow Prabhupada's instructions on how to practice Bhakti Yoga. So, and then beyond that, then it becomes material. So the first two things are spirit. Beyond that, it is on the material platform. And when you do those activities, you make some advancement, but you can stay in the material cycle. The goal of human form of life is to go back to God. So if one functions in the varnashram system, materially, be it warrior, merchant, brahmana, or shudra. And they'll just stay in the cycle.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for Krishna's pleasure, it's mostly for his displeasure that the
Yeah.
soul is still stuck in the
Because he
material world.
wants us to come back to
Krishna
him.
actually wants us to go back to God. So the first two ones where you love Krishna from your heart, or you follow the and again the thing is one can be one can follow their proclivities and still practice bhakti yoga actually. So it's not that one has to give that up to really follow their their nature in this one particular life and body. So one can actually dovetail so many things in Krishna service. And that was to your point that that Prabhupada said that one thing you cannot dovetail. And be a devotee is butchering animals. Because Bhagavatam speaks so much about it. Narada Muni speaks to the King Prajani Varishat. It was all about killing animals. It's like that's one thing you cannot do at the most. Of course, other things too. That's one thing that's emphasized. Definitely not. But yeah, so it's like one can have so many proclivities in this life. One has to see how to use it in Krishna service and practice Krishna consciousness. Practice Bhakti Yoga, the processes of Bhakti Yoga. So yeah, if one doesn't do that, then they'll be stuck in the material world. Then one life they'll be Kshatriya, one life they'll be, just a worker.
It's
one
not
life they'll
eternal
be
nature. That nature is not eternal. Thank you. If that helps. We are out of time. Okay. Comment? Yeah, Nate, please go ahead.
I think the warrior inclination is definitely something like dovetailed, because when we're being agents of love, we have to be strategic, and this view that God is sitting back and watching two armies fight and enjoying it, he doesn't care that much. They're working on a very material platform, most people, and that's just their karma, and that's just what's happening, and it's not like he's necessarily enjoying it, but he does enjoy when we declare war on Maya and we become agents of love, and we use this warrior mentality in a way that we're fighting against delusion. And it can be a struggle, but the struggle is glorious because it's for Krishna.
If you have other comments pertaining to this topic, I'm sure we can continue it after. This is a side point. I'm sure it would be lovely to have a discussion. Did you guys have something to say on this topic? We can continue afterwards. Okay, just shout it out. I know Rasika Prabhu also wanted to say something.
I would imagine it would be in Krishna's service to be prepared to protect the devotees.
Yes, the warrior class is not there to fight each other. It's there to protect the people who are being harassed. That's the main role that they have. They're not here to ascertain their supremacy over the others. Rasika Prabhu, is that good?
I would just
Yeah, exactly. They're not just here to fight each other. Wonderful. That's okay. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada